What if everything you call I were just a shadow projected on the wall of your own consciousness? What if the observer you think you are were nothing more than another object floating in the field of your perception? The most disturbing truth you can discover is not about the world out there, but about the one you believe is in here, looking at all of this. Since you woke up today, how many times have you said or thought the word I need to do this. I feel that. I want. I think. This tiny word carries the weight of your entire identity, doesn't it? But here's the problem. The more you try to find this I, the more it slips through your fingers like sand. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself who exactly is searching? When you close your eyes and try to observe the observer, do you find something solid there, or just an infinite succession of thoughts, watching other thoughts, sensations observing other sensations, like mirrors reflecting mirrors into infinity? The ancient Eastern philosophers knew this millennia ago. When Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, he wasn't seeking enlightenment like someone searching for hidden treasure. He was investigating the nature of the seeker. And what did he find? Nothing, literally nothing, in the sense of no permanent, solid, independent entity that could be called I. He found processes, flows, emerging patterns of consciousness, but never a fixed observer commanding the show from the backstage of the mind. Modern neuroscience has reached the same conclusion through completely different paths. When scientists scan the brain looking for the center of the I, what do they find? There's no neuronal CEO, no homunculus sitting in a control room inside your skull. What exists is a distributed network of processes, a chaotic democracy of neurons firing in patterns that create the illusion of unity. You are not a thing observing other things. You are the process of observation recognizing itself. Think about it. Right now, as you hear these words, who is listening? You can feel that there's a you here at this specific point behind your eyes, right? But is there really? When you feel pain in your foot, the pain isn't happening behind your eyes, it's in your foot. When you think about your childhood, where is that memory? It's not in any specific physical location. And when you feel love, where does that feeling live? Can you point to it? The inconvenient truth is that the observer you think inhabits your body is a useful fiction, a story your brain tells itself to organize the chaos of experience. But wait, if there's no observer, who is having all these experiences? Who is living your life right now? This question leads us to even more fascinating territory. You've probably had that strange moment where you caught yourself thinking, why am I me and not someone else? Or that instant of mild dissociation when you look in the mirror and for a second don't quite recognize that face as yours. These moments aren't system failures, they're cracks in the illusion. They're the instance when the mental construction of the I falters for a second, and you manage to glimpse something more fundamental underneath. Let's do a thought experiment together. Imagine you're observing your thoughts passing through your mind. You notice a thought about tonight's dinner. Then comes a worry about work, then a childhood memory. Now tell me, who is observing these thoughts? I am, you answer. Right, but this that is observing, isn't it also just another thought, another sensation of presence that comes and goes? Now try to observe the observer. What do you find? Another observer? And who observes that one? It's an infinite regression, isn't it? Or there's no regression at all, because there never was a separate observer to begin with. There is only observation happening. Have you ever wondered why your most important decisions seem to come out of nowhere? Why insights arise when you're in the shower and not when you're forcing your mind to think? It's because the you that you think is in control was never really commanding anything. Neuroscientific studies show that your brain has already decided what to do a few milliseconds before you become conscious of the decision. What you call free will is, most of the time, the internal narrator interpreting choices that have already been made by unconscious processes. The observer isn't observing in real time, he's watching reruns and believing it's live. This may seem terrifying at first glance. If there's no I in control, then who is living my life? But here's the liberating paradox. When you truly understand that the observer is just another thing being observed, you stop identifying with the voice in your head. You stop believing that every internal criticism is the absolute truth about who you are. You begin to realize that thoughts are just mental events, not divine decrees. And in that space of non-identification, something extraordinary happens. You finally experience freedom. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe to this channel to continue this journey of awakening together. Now let's go deeper. Why does this illusion of the separate observer exist in the first place? It didn't arise by chance. From an evolutionary standpoint, having a sense of I was tremendously useful for survival. An organism that can distinguish me from not me has a better chance of protecting its body, finding food, and avoiding predators. The problem is that this useful mechanism became the foundation of all our psychological suffering. Think about all the anxiety you've ever felt. All of it depends on the existence of an I that can be threatened, an I that can fail, an I that can be rejected. Think about all the pride you've ever felt. All of it depends on an I that can be superior, an I that deserves recognition. Every comparison, every insecurity, every frantic search for external validation, all of this only exists because you believe in the reality of this separate observer that needs to be protected, improved, and proven. The great mystics of all traditions discovered this through direct experience. When Rumi says, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop," he's pointing to this truth. The observer you think you are is not a tiny entity trapped inside a body, looking at the world through two windows of flesh. The observer is consciousness itself, permeating everything, experiencing itself through countless viewpoints. You are not a separate wave in the ocean of consciousness. You are the entire ocean experiencing itself as a wave. In your daily life, you probably carry the weight of maintaining this cohesive identity. You have a story about who you are based on your memories, your beliefs, your preferences. I'm someone who likes this, who is good at that, who has this type of personality. But observe closely. Are these characteristics really you, or are they just patterns you learned to associate with the idea of you? If you lost your memory tomorrow, would you cease to exist? Of course not. Consciousness would still be there, just without the particular story. There's a simple but profound exercise that can demonstrate this. In the next few seconds, try not to think. Just observe. Don't think about observing, just observe. Notice that there's an awareness here before any thought about it. There's a presence witnessing all of this before you name it as I or my consciousness. This presence has no form, no story, no personality. It simply is. And when you rest in this presence without trying to turn it into something, without trying to make it a special observer, you touch something unnameable but absolutely real. But there's an even deeper secret that few know, a final twist in this investigation. Most people, when they hear that the observer is an illusion, try to get rid of the ego, try to destroy the sense of self. But this is just the ego trying to enlighten itself, the observer trying to observe its own non-existence. It's like trying to erase shadows with a flashlight. You only create more shadows. True understanding is not about destroying the observer. It's about seeing through it so completely that it loses its hypnotic power. Here's the revelation. The observer is not your enemy, and you don't need to get rid of it. You just need to stop believing it's real in the way you always thought. It's like discovering that Santa Claus doesn't exist. You don't need to fight Santa Claus. You simply stop believing the story. The character can even continue to exist as a useful fiction, but you're no longer fooled by it. In practice, this means something revolutionary. It means you can continue using the concept of I to navigate the world, to make decisions, to relate to others, but without the desperate grip of trying to prove, protect, or perpetuate this self. You use the ego as a tool, not as a prison. It's like an actor who knows he's playing a character. He can dedicate himself completely to the role without confusing himself with it. When this understanding deepens, something magical happens. Things that used to hurt you lose their sting. Criticism can still be heard, but it doesn't devastate because there's no solid I to be destroyed. Praise can still be appreciated, but it doesn't inflate because there's no separate I to be aggrandized. You become like a mirror, reflecting what comes, but grasping nothing, resisting nothing. This is the freedom that sages have been pointing to for centuries. It's not the freedom to get everything you want. It's the freedom of not needing to be anyone in particular. It's the freedom to dance with life without the agony of having to protect a fragile dancer who never existed. It's the freedom to finally relax into what you always were before you learn to call yourself I. And here's the last insight, the most beautiful of all. This realization doesn't make you less human. It makes you more human. It doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you deeply compassionate, because when you see through the illusion of your own separate observer, you naturally see through the illusion of all other separate observers too. You realize that everyone is trapped in the same story, fighting to protect a ghost, suffering for a character that exists only in imagination. And from this perception is born genuine compassion, not because you should be compassionate, but because the separation that created indifference has simply fallen away. The observer you've been searching for your whole life was never hidden somewhere inside you. It was just a convincing story, a useful fiction that became religion. The naked truth is that there's no one separate here, there never was. There is only this experience happening, this moment unfolding, this consciousness knowing itself through infinite forms, including the form you learned to call you. And when you truly see this, not intellectually but directly, you stop seeking what already is. You stop trying to become what you never stopped being. You rest in the obvious and liberating impossibility that the observer was just another thing being observed, a passing cloud in the empty sky of consciousness, and that you are the entire sky, not the cloud. If this journey touched something deep in you, if these words resonated beyond the conceptual level, do yourself a favor and subscribe to this channel. Leave your like if this exploration expanded your perception, and more importantly, share this video with someone who is ready to question their own identity, someone who is tired of carrying the weight of an observer who never existed. In the comments, share your experience. Were you able to perceive, even for an instant, that the observer you think you are is just another object in your consciousness? Let's continue this conversation, because in this space of shared investigation, the illusion of the separate begins to dissolve, and what remains is indescribable, but absolutely free.